This is a Wilier Rave SLR, and it's sort of like an SUV, if you like. All sporty and fast looking, but underpinned by off-road capability. Or is it? Can a bike actually do gravel, or is it just a glorified road bike on fat tyres? Well, there is one way to find out. Don my shades and we'll go for a ride. Let's dive in. Okay, let's get stuck in then, and I've come to the flattest, smoothest, fastest gravel near me, the ancient Foss Way, which is probably the closest it gets to US style gravel here in the Cotswolds. And boy, is this bike fast. I mean, wow, it's incredibly fast, off the mark, no hesitation when you get on the pedals, just absolutely flies along the gravel. Just feels like a road race bike, an aero race bike when it comes to going fast. The speed comes easily, comes quickly, and it doesn't tail off at all. Definitely one of the fastest gravel bikes I've ridden. Definitely up there with the Cervelo Espero, the 3T Explorer Race Max, and even that Pearson on as well. So it definitely has the speed to match the looks of the bike, but the aggressive position really dominates the way the bike rides. If you want to do fast gravel like this in a comfortable position, you can get nice and stretched out and nice and aero and absolutely smash along at high speed. 35, 40k an hour comes very easily on this bike. And it carries that speed well onto the road as well. These Vittoria Terreno tyres are terrific in the dry and on smooth gravel, and not much slower on the road than a fat road tyre. This bike with some road tyres would be not much slower than that Volante SLR, I reckon, in real world riding. If you've got any desire to do any gravel racing, whether Dirty Reaver here in the UK or the Unbound over in the US, where it's smooth and fast and the speed is critical, this bike would be an absolutely fine choice. So if you love riding fast on the road and off-road, if you have smooth gravel where you live, this bike would definitely put a smile on your face. But stray away from smooth gravel and it might put a few aches and pains in your body, as I've experienced over the last few weeks. Because as soon as you leave the smooth gravel behind and go further into the wilderness and find some bumpy, rocky, rooty terrain, then the bike becomes a bit jarring and a bit uncomfortable, especially on a longer ride. There isn't much forgiveness in the frame, the fork. I'm running low pressures, but you can't go wider. The tyre clearance is limited on this bike. And yes, the handlebar does offer a bit of flex, but overall it is a stiff riding bike, a very firm bike, very raw and thrilling bike, yes, but not a smooth operator on very rough terrain. And there are definitely smoother bikes. That Giant Revolt, Specialized Diverge, Candale Topstone, loads of bikes with more compliance and more comfort and even bigger tyres, so you can benefit from lower pressures to really eke out more comfort and smoothness on really jarring, technical, chunky off-road trails. So stick to smooth stuff, stick to the road, and you'll be just fine on this bike. But go too far away from that sort of narrow window of perfection and you'll be wishing you're on something else, a mountain bike even. That lack of capability in very chunky off-road terrain, it's also backed up by the fact there aren't many bike packing mounts on the frame, nothing on the fork, the top tube, only 2 bottle cage mounts. So very limited appeal, definitely lacks the versatility and all-round kind of appeal of a gravel bike, the likes of the Salsa Warbird, the Giant Revolt or the Specialized Diverge, to name a few examples. So to answer my opening question, is it a gravel bike or a glorified road bike with fat tyres? Well, it depends on your gravel. As with all these bikes, it depends on the riding you are doing and your ambition. Whether racing, whether doing bike packing, whether adventuring, exploring, whatever it is. But we're definitely seeing a split in the gravel bike market and the gravel bike community now. And this bike definitely leans very heavily, very clearly towards the racing end of the spectrum. The UCI World Champs, the Unbound, the Dirty Reaver. Fast, smooth, aggressive racing, where the road bike DNA of this bike would definitely shine through. But outside of that narrow window, for me, the bike has limited appeal. Yes, it's fast, and for connecting smooth gravel with road, it's a fantastic bike. But when you get properly off-road, exploring trails, following your nose, and any desire to go bike packing, well, the bike just doesn't cut it. To be fair, it's not designed for that sort of riding, but we are seeing gravel bikes that can do speed and racing, and also bike packing and versatility in one package. And that's me out of breath. Whew. So I don't think the Wilier Rave SLR is truly a gravel bike in my mind. I would call this an all-road bike, an endurance road bike that can do a bit of light gravel with some fatter tyres. No mudguard mounts, no extra bottle, bag mounts, none of that stuff to slow you down. It's all about going fast and maybe tackling a bit of smooth gravel if it takes your fancy, but it won't be any slower, or not much slower on the road than your aero race bike. And for a roadie getting into gravel, this could be the perfect introduction. But also, while it would be a very similar bike to their aero race bike, I feel it might put them off if they try and do some proper chunky gravel riding, especially here in the UK, where we don't really have miles and miles of smooth, flat gravel. We have bridleways and woodland trails and rocky moorland trails, stuff where, yes, a mountain bike might be a better choice, but a modern gravel bike can do that stuff really well. And then adventure riding, whether a long ride with a few extra bags and bottles to keep you supplied, or a few overnight stops on a proper bike packing adventure. But this bike can't do any of that, not easily, not out of the box anyway. So that does limit its appeal. If you like the idea of gravel, this bike would definitely limit how much of the gravel scene you can really participate in. And that's a real shame. But yes, the company does offer the Jenna, which is a more bike packing adventure bike. But I think they could have made this bike a bit more appealing to those who, yes, want to go fast. Like, I love going fast, I love it, absolutely adore going as fast as I can. But I want to do some bike packing, adventure riding, fit some extra bottles and bags, and some wide tyres as well, without sacrificing speed. And I felt this bike could have offered all that, but it sadly doesn't. The equipment on this bike is absolutely first class, top drawer, flawless, can't really fault it at all. A very pricey build, which I'll talk about later in the video. So we've got Campag Eka 1x13, of course, been around for a little while now. You can see my video review on it linked down below. It's still a fantastic group set. I do like the way it works. I love the ergonomics of the hoods. Got a great feel, really tactile in the hands, and a bit taller than SRAM and Shimano. And that's good when you're hanging on for dear life on a steep, bumpy trail. The gear changes are just fine, but I do prefer the simplicity and the ease of shifting with an electronic shifting group set. Pressing a button when you're riding off-road and bumping around just seems to be easier than pressing a lever and make sure you get that shift absolutely dialed. But it does work well, just takes a bit of getting used to. And then the J-bend handlebar is easily the most distinctive handlebar this side of a Cervelo S5. Apparently it's tuned for gravel, a bit more compliance, slightly wider, a little bit of flair at the drops, but nothing extreme. And I kind of like it. It's definitely a talking point at the cafe before or after ride, and it does look cool. You look down through it and see your front tyre and the logo on the head tube. But it does make fitting lights and computers and other objects on the front a little bit tricky, because it's not a standard design. So that is a factor. The company does offer an out front mount for a computer, but none was supplied with the bike. So yeah, the handlebar, I'd probably fit a regular handlebar and stem if I had the option. But no, it's kind of cool, I kind of like it, it's a bit different. The physique saddle on this bike is absolutely fantastic. Nice broad platform, really comfortable as well, great for gravel riding when you're sitting more upright than an aero race bike when you slam forward over the nose of the saddle. So really comfy saddle. This bike isn't a standard build. It was actually supplied by Campag themselves to showcase the new Levante wheels, which they launched a little while ago. You can see my video on that down below, get all details on the brand new super wide carbon fibre tubeless wheels, and they are a great companion for this bike. Got the Vittoria Terreno tyres on, which are absolutely rapid for UK riding. I mean, it's summer now, but as you can see, the trails are a bit wet. I want something with a bit more bite and a bit more kind of grip in slipperier conditions. Anyway, I run out of gravel and back on the road, and the bike is still as fast as it was a few minutes ago. So let me wrap up the review, some likes and dislikes, the price, because the price is quite substantial on this bike, and give my verdict. So it's pretty obvious it's a race bike, it rides like a race bike, and it looks like a race bike as well. And we've got all the aero influences from the Wilier SLR road bike, which in my opinion is one of the best looking road bikes available right now. The paint job on this bike is kind of okay, it's muted and understated, and I quite like the two-tone with the matching fork and the down tube logo. And it matches gravel riding, I guess, sort of earthy tones, but a bolder colourway would be a nice option to have. That gloss red Wilier SLR looks amazing, and that in this bike would be pretty cool. It's also a pretty pricey option as well in the gravel bike market. This isn't a stock build because it was supplied by Campag with these Levante wheels, which you might have seen in my video on recently. But they do offer a Campag Eccar build, and I'm sure they'll be offering this specification at some point. But you're looking at around £9,000, give or take a few £100s here or there. Who's counting for a build like this? So definitely top end spending money. So to sum up the Rave SLR, it's clearly a race bike built for speed and going as fast as possible on a smooth gravel, in long distance gravel events, and a bit of road riding as well, with these tyres or some slicks fitted. It's clearly not a bike packing adventure bike, but the company does offer the Jenna in their range if you want that sort of bike, but it does limit the appeal of this bike if you want one gravel bike that can do both racing and adventure bike packing riding. But if it sounds like the bike for you, then let me know by leaving a comment down below, and check out the website if you want more information on this bike and other bikes in the range. Anyway, that's been my review of the Wilier Rave SLR. If you want to see some other gravel bikes in this sector, then check this video right here, and don't forget to subscribe by hitting this button down here. But that's all for today. I'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching.